descriptions I gave to you in the previous video, we're going to go over here and take a look at a few plans. This plan, in fact, belongs to a 2-level villa. And as you can see here, we have a schematic plan for the powerhouse space. So here we have a water tank, and then it connects to the pump. And through those pumps, we get the domestic cold water supply, which is the cold water for the consumer. Now let's take a look on this side. Over here, we have the domestic hot water generator, or as it says in the plan, it's the domestic hot water tank. A cold water pipe enters this tank, and as you can see right here, it says that that water comes from the network. But here in this plan, we're going to say that that water comes from the pump and enters the tank. You see that it says here, domestic cold water supply. And right next to it, we have a domestic hot water return. So that means that here we have cold water supply and hot water return, and both pipes for which enter the generator. On the other side, where we can find the boiler, we have some water entries. If you take a look right here, you will notice that if we start from the boiler and follow this green line, it's going to continue this way and then goes along in this direction and eventually enters the generator. After that, when that water enters the fan coils, it's going to get out of the generator and come this way and returns back to the boiler. So overall, over here we have 2 pipes, one of which the water comes from the boiler and from the other it goes out. Also here the cold water comes in and from the other the hot water returns. All of these waters exchange temperatures without directly contacting each other. And then finally the domestic hot water supply comes out of the generator and then it leads to the consumer. So this plan is the overall system that we've designed and drawn for this project. And amongst these equipments, we also have some pipes, valves, and pumps, which we don't need too much information on right now. We just wanted to see the overall process. So now let's go over to our floor's domestic plans. As you can see here, it says connect to mechanical room, which means that these pipes are coming in from the mechanical room or the powerhouse. Which pipes are we talking about? They are cold water supply, and hot water return. So now let's track this cold water pipe, for example. Let's see where it goes. It comes in here and into this stall and through the faucet. Then we also have the hot water supply, which is coming in from this way and again ends at the same faucet. There's also a branch coming out of this hot water supply pipe, which continues to the hot water return pipe and eventually returns back to the mechanical room. Actually, we're going to need this hot water return pipe because we're going to need to maintain our temperature. So there goes one plan type. We're going to go back here to take a look at another one. Here we have a riser which connects to the pump house or the mechanical room, from which a domestic cold water pipe comes. So from that riser, the cold water enters the bathroom area. Then it gives these branches to connect to the lavatories. And after that, that whole pipe comes this way. Then it ends at this electric water heater. What happens here is that hot water is generated, the water is heated, then it's going to go this way to eventually end at the consumer. The way that this plan was designed is actually meant for when these equipments are not very frequently used, or it might be because this area is too far away from the mechanical room that it wasn't worth investing so much on putting so many pipes and the whole process of hot water return and supply. So what happened instead was that an electric water heater was placed here at the very bathroom area. Only thing entering the bathroom is the cold water pipe, and that cold water goes to the water heater to become heated. So this was a different type of plan which we could come across. Now to show you another type of plan, I could actually show you this figure right here. Let me zoom in a little. You see here is the mechanical room area. Here in this area, we're going to be needing some domestic pipes to lead to the bathroom stalls. So what's going to happen? These 2 lines right here, the cold and hot water coming from the mechanical room, are going to go this way and end at this collector right here. And then we would have some outlets from this collector leading to the consumers. So that means that we would have hot water pipes and also cold water pipes coming from the cold water collector. You see, we have two collectors, one for cold and one for hot water. So we can also have outlets as many as we need. So this is another type. The water comes from the mechanical room into this collector. Now to show you another plan type, as you can see right here in the levels, we have cold water collector and hot water collector. Some water pipes are going to come from that mechanical room and those tanks to these collectors. And then, for example, from this cold water collector, a pipe is going to come out and it comes down and continues this way. And then it leads to, based on this path, and eventually that water pipe ends at this package unit right here. In the package unit, the water is heated and then goes up this way to end at the hot water collector. As you can see, this is where the hot water enters. So in this plan, we had a path, and once again, the water is heated in the level itself, and that heating process is done by a package unit. The water is heated and leads to the hot water collector, and then from the collector, it leads to the consumers. As for the cold water collector, which is being fed from the mechanical room, some other cold water branches come out, and each one of them leads to any of the consumers that we have. So depending on our design, these pipes could either be installed in the ceilings or they could be installed in the floors. So this is another important point that needs to be mentioned in your plans. Now we're going to take all this information that we've learned about these domestic pipes and the descriptions and explanations that we gave on the mechanical rooms and powerhouses. In the next video, we're going to try to place the domestic pipes for our bathroom. We're about to model the domestic pipes of this bathroom project. So first of all, we're going to go over to Revit. And before we begin our modeling process, we're going to have to reorganize our project browser window a little bit. First of all, we're going to rename some of the plans. For example, this one mechanical, because we only want to see the ducts in it, we're going to rename it to 1 duct. So let's rename that. And then the next one becomes 2 duct. Then I'm going to go over here to the ones that are named plumbing, and we're going to rename this one as well, since we organized this plan in a way where we could only see the sanitary and vent items. So we're going to rename it to that. Now let's copy it, Control C. Then we're going to go down to the next one that says plumbing, and we're going to paste it over there. Now, besides all of these, I'm going to want to have a floor plan for each of these levels where I could only see the domestic pipes, and I could link the domestic plans over there as well. So I could go over here, right click, then hit duplicate, duplicate. And also for level 2, right click, duplicate, and duplicate. After that, I'm going to rename these duplicated plans. And I'm going to change them to domestic water, then hit enter, and then I'm going to rename this next one to domestic water, and enter. Now, one way upon which I can reorganize my project browser window is based on the plans. Also, another way to do that is we could reorganize them based on their systems. Now, what does that mean? It means that we could take these plans, for example, these ones that are called duct, as well as their ceiling plans. Then we could go to the properties window, then make sure discipline is mechanical, then we change the subdiscipline to duct, press enter, and then move the cursor out of the window. Now they all went under duct. Also, as for these plans that are called ceiling MEP, we're going to rename them too and make them ceiling duct. That means this is a ceiling plan in which we can see the ducts. After that, I'm going to go down here and select these domestic plans, then go over to the properties window. Then I'm going to change their subdiscipline to domestic water. And so they all went under subdiscipline domestic. Let's also select sanitary and vent. Then we're going to go over here, and in front of the subdiscipline, we're going to type in sanitary and vent. Now they are all under subdiscipline sanitary and vent and discipline plumbing. As for the elevations, we're not going to be needing them here, so we're just going to select and delete them. Also, let's select the 3D and delete that one as well. And now we're left with sanitary and vent and domestic water. But here I'm going to select the mechanical elevations, and then I'm going to go over here and put them under discipline coordination. And as for their subdiscipline, I'm going to change that to elevation. Now they went under coordination and elevation. And now we're going to go see what we can do about this 3D view. The first thing we're going to do for it is we're going to define a view template. So we're going to click Edit Type. And let's minimize the window a little bit. And now let's go find and select a view template to apply to it. Since there's no template proper for this, we're just going to create one. As in, we're going to select and duplicate one of these templates we already have, name it 3D, then click OK. Now we select this 3D, then we're going to set the detail level on Fine. Then we open the model display and set it on Shaded. And then I'm going to set the discipline on Coordination. And for the subdiscipline, we're just going to type in 3D. After that, we're going to go to edit the visibility graphics. While here in the first tab, we're going to filter to only see the mechanical and piping items. Then we're going to check all of them to make them visible. Then we're going to go over to the filters tab and make sure no filters are defined there in a way that they could prevent the visibility of anything. So let's remove this. Also, we're going to go over to the Revit Links tab and check the underlay or halftone box for this architecture and structural plan. Then we're going to click OK and OK. Also, let's uncheck this box so that this template is applied on 3D, but the settings don't get locked. Then click OK. Now to have this 3D where it needs to be, we're going to right-click on it, then click Apply Template Properties, then select the 3D, then click OK. Now our 3D would appear. Discipline Coordination, Subdiscipline 3D, and if we click on it, we could see our architectural plan in 3D and halftone. Let's do the same thing for the sections as well. I'm going to select one of them, then click Edit Type, and now we're going to want to define a view template in which we could see every single item, no matter if it's a duct or a pipe or sanitary, domestic, anything. So for that, first we're just going to duplicate this 3D template, and I'm going to name this Section Total, and press Enter. We're going to want the settings here to be the same as the settings in 3D, only for the far clipping, we're going to click right here and check Click with Line. We're going to want to see those clips so we can easily minimize or maximize our sections. So we're going to click OK. And as for their subdiscipline, I'm going to have them put under Section. Then click OK. Then uncheck this box, then click OK again. And now I'm going to select the sections, right-click, then Apply View Template. Select Section Total, then click OK. Now what happened is that they went under Discipline Coordination and Subdiscipline section. Now if we scroll lower, we can see some other sections as well. So we're going to select all of them too. Then right-click, Apply View Template, select Section Total, then click OK. Now all of our sections have gone under Subdiscipline section and Discipline Coordination. Also from here on out, if we create any new sections, they're going to also go under here. So what we have now is there's a discipline called Coordination, under which we have 3D, Elevation, and Section. There's also a Mechanical discipline where we can find the ducts. And lastly, we have a Plumbing discipline in which we have the Domestic Water and Sanitary and Vent subdisciplines. Now, the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to go to each plan and decide which items are going to be visible there. For example, let's open Domestic Water, then hit VV. Then here in the first tab, I'm going to uncheck the ducts, which they already are. But we do want to see the pipes here, which they are checked. Now, I'm going to have all of these pipes, and I'm going to define a filter for them. So first, let's add a filter. And then I'm going to select domestic cold water, domestic hot water, sanitary vent, then click OK. Now, of all of these pipes, we're not going to want to see the hydronic pipes. Let's also uncheck sanitary and vent. We're not going to want to see those either, but we do want to be able to see the cold water and hot water pipes. Now click OK. As for down here, we already have defined and shaded set. and our plans are organized. We can also repeat the same thing for the second floor too. Select, hit VV, go to Filters tab, then Add. And while I'm holding the Control key, I'm going to select Domestic Cold Water and Hot Water, Sanitary Vent, then click OK. Now uncheck Sanitary Vent and Hydronic, then click OK. Let's check that for these sanitary and vent plans. So I'm going to open one of them, then hit VV. You don't want to see the ducts, they're unchecked. But we do want to see the pipes, and they are checked here. And now I'm going to go over to the filters and add one. And here I could just select domestic instead of having to select cold water and hot water separately. Sanitary and vent, okay. Now we don't want to see the domestic, but we do want to see the sanitary and vent. Then click OK. Let's also do that for the second floor. VV, then go to the Filters tab, then Add. Hold the Control key, select Domestic, Sanitary, and Vent, then click OK. Here I'm going to only want to see Sanitary and Vent, then I'm going to click OK. Also for the duct plans, we're going to select, then hit VV, and then we're going to make sure that all the duct items are checked, which they are. But as for the pipes, we're not going to want to see any of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to uncheck every item that's related to pipes. I could even uncheck the plumbing fixtures box, as well as the flex pipes. Now let's go over here and check the filters. You see, since I've unchecked every piping item, I don't see any need for any filters related to that to be here. These domestic, sanitary, and vent pipes are in the first tab. We unchecked all of them. So I could just remove all these, then click OK. Let's do the same thing for the second floor too. Select VV, and then here in the first tab, I'm going to uncheck every piping item, as well as flex pipe. Then I'm going to go over to the Filters tab and remove all of these piping filters. Then click OK. So now we've finished readjusting the settings for all of our views here. And now we're going to have to go in our domestic view and link the plan into it and adjust the settings required for the domestic pipes and draw them. Now that we've organized our views in the project browser window and adjusted their settings, we're going to be linking our plan into the project. But before we do that, first I'm going to have to measure one part of the plan. So I select the linear command, and for example, I'm going to measure the width of this wall. The number I get is 0.15, and from the looks of it, I'm going to figure that this is 0.1500 meters, because it can't be neither a millimeter nor centimeter. So 0.15 meter. So we conclude that our plan is in metric units. Factory bid and the Insert tab. Then we click on Link CAD, and then we are going to head over to where our plan is, right here in the WC project folder. Then DWG, and I'm going to select domestic, and then I make sure I check this current view only so that the plan is linked only in this view. For the import units, we figured that it was supposed to be meter. And for the positioning, we could just select center to center and then click open. Now we have to wait for our plan to link. Now I'm going to be using the align command in order to align that plan with the architectural plan and the grids. So I'm going to go up to the modify tab, then click align. Or I could just use the shortcut AL. Now first I'm going to click on the WR grid to align it with WR from the plan. Then click on W15 and W15. Now the plans have been aligned. So now we could go ahead and readjust the settings for drawing pipes. Here we're going to want to draw our domestic pipes of the 5-layer pipe type. These 5-layer pipes could include different segments. For example, they can have PEX out PEX or PERT out PERT or any other segment. The letters PE in PEX out PEX stand for polyethylene, and the X stands for cross-link, as in this is the process through which that polyethylene pipe was created. PEX Al, the L stands for aluminum, and after that we have another PEX. So there's going to be a layer of polyethylene, and then an adhesive layer, a layer of aluminum, and then another adhesive layer, and another layer of polyethylene cross-linked, which makes it 5 layers. That's why we call it a 5-layer pipe. So we're going to want to draw and model these 5-layer domestic pipes of PEX out PEX. So if we go up to the Manage tab, then click on MEP settings, and then mechanical settings, or instead use the shortcut MS. If we go and check in these segments and sizes, we will notice that there's no such thing called Pexel PEX 5 layer. You don't have it here, so let's just close the window. Also, let's go up to the Insert tab, then click on Load Family. Then we're going to go over to the metric folder because our units are metric here. Then United States, Pipe, and Fittings. So we don't have any fittings here that indicate 5 layers. Of the plastic material, we only have PVC here. So now we know that we don't have the pipe segment nor the families related to it. We have to figure out something for it. So let's go look it up. I'm going to search PEX Altex, Revit, Fitting, Family. The first website we get in the results is the BIM objects, which there are some families in there. But in order to have a better result, I could also add the word Valsier in the search bar. Valsier is an Italian brand which produces domestic pipes and fittings. This brand has modeled and created the different families for different segments of domestic pipes, and they have uploaded them in their website and made them available for us to use. So if we want to find better results for finding our families, we could just add this word Valsier. Not to mention that not only this brand, but also there are some other brands that have done the same thing. But we're just going to be using this one to model our project. So once again, we got this BIM objects website, so we're going to click on it. And if you look right here, you'll find the Valsier Pexel families. Actually, there is also another set of families, as in there's another link down here, which if we click on it, you will find that there are brass fittings here. Whereas if you remember in the previous link, we had plastic fittings. So I'm going to click on download so we can download it. As you can see, there are 15 Revit files here. We're going to click on Revit and then download selection. And then we have to wait for these selected files to be downloaded. Now I'm going to go to the path where my file's been downloaded, and then I'm going to extract the downloaded file so I can use it. Now, if we take a look in this folder, let's expand the window a little bit. Now we can see the suffixes or the formats of the files. Their formats are RFA or Revit families, as well as an RTE file, which is a Revit template. In case you couldn't see the formats of your files and your Windows is 10 like mine, you could go up to the View tab, then check the File Name Extensions box. If it's unchecked, the formats or the names would be invisible. But if we check the box again, we will see that they are back on. Now the first one we're going to be dealing with is this RTE1, which is the Revit template. So I'm going to go over to Revit, then I'm going to click Open, and then I'm going to go over to the path where our downloaded file was, and then I'm going to find and select this RTE file, and then I'm going to click Open. So what's happening now is that that file is being upgraded from version 2015 to 2023. So what we have to do now is wait for this upgrading process to finish. All right, now we're going to go up to the View tab and close the extra views by clicking on this Close Inactive Views. Or instead, I could just go up to the Quick Access toolbar and close Inactive Views. Now we end up with our own file and the template we've just opened. I'm going to go over to my own file, then go up to the Manage tab, and then click on Transfer Project Standards. Now, as you can see, it says Copy From. Which file do we want to copy from? From this template that we opened. Now, what do we want to copy? First, let's hit Check None, and then I'm going to scroll down, and then I'm going to check the box for pipe types. So that means that from this open template file, in which there are the 5-layer pipes, we're going to want to copy those pipe types into our own file. So we're going to click OK, and then the transferring process is going to start, and we can see the transferring status down here. Also, it's possible that this message could pop up, which talks about the materials that already exist in our own file. So we could either overwrite them, or I'm going to click New Only. meaning that only the new materials will be transferred and the ones that already exist are going to be skipped. Now let's go up to the Systems tab and click on the pipe command. And now if we take a look at the Properties window, we will see two Valsier pixel types. One of them is standard and the other one is over thickness. This over thickness one is probably thicker and stronger, but we're just going to be using the one that says standard. So we had a template from which we transferred the things we needed into our file without having to define new pipe segments or loading multiple families into the project and organizing them into pipe types. So we've done the first step of the 5 steps that we needed to go through before drawing pipes, which was selecting the pipe type. The next one would be the cold water and the domestic hot water. But if we go and take a look in the plan, we will see the initials DCW, which is the same thing as domestic cold water. But the thing is, we're going to want to have the same initials in the system types. So we're going to go over to the project browser window, then go under the piping systems subdiscipline. Then we're going to select the domestic cold water. We're going to right click on it, then hit duplicate, then right click on the new one and rename it to the initials DCW. Then we're going to hit enter. And let's do the same thing for hot. Right click on domestic hot water, duplicate, and then we're going to rename the duplicated one to DHW, which is domestic hot water. Then we hit enter. Now if I go up to the Systems tab again and hit the pipe command, you'll see the pipe type has been selected, and also for the system type, we now have the DCW. As for the middle elevation, we're going to go over to the path in which the pipe is going to go and create a section along there. Looks like we have a section from before, so we're going to right click on it and go to view. Now here we're going to check which elevation is the best for our pipe. As you can see right now here along this path, the duct is coming through. You might also notice that this duct is interfering with sanitary pipes, so we're going to have to fix that interference. And also we're going to have to place our domestic pipe right around here. But before I start drawing that domestic pipe, first I'm going to select these elbows for this duct and delete them. And after that, I'm going to hit align to align the axis of this duct with the axis of this one. Next, I'm going to get trim TR to connect them together. Now I'm going to select my duct and lower it so that it goes below the sanitary pipes. Let's select it, then use the arrow keys in the keyboard to lower it. So you see when our fittings are of the tap type, and if we try to move the main duct they're connected to, the tap wouldn't understand that it has to move along with the duct. That's because the tap is not attached to the duct, so it's just going to remain where it is. So let's keep trying to lower the duct. And do you see this warning down here? It says the tap must be attached to duct. So like I said, that tap is not attached to the duct. But I'll just ignore that and keep lowering the duct further and further. And then once the duct tries to pass the center line of the tap, it's almost like the tap finally realizes that if the duct goes any lower, it's never going to get to it. Let's check that out. If I try to lower it one more time, the tap also jumps down to the middle of the duct. But it looks like the interference has not yet been completely fixed, so we're going to continue lowering the duct. There we go. You don't want to lower our duct any further in order to make the tap understand that it has to move along. So at this point, we have to readjust the elevation. At first, it's 2985. Now let's go back to our own plan, and we're going to want to go into a view where we can see the ducts. So the elevation of this duct, as in this entire line, is 2985. This is the tap which was left behind. So we're going to make its elevation 2985. And this is another one that was left behind. So we're going to make it 2985. Now we have to double check the other branches. This one's elevation is correct. This one isn't. We're going to change it to 2985. And also down here, we had another branch, and its middle elevation number is the same as the other ones. So we've lowered our main duct not only in order to fix the interferences with the sanitary pipes, but also to make space for the domestic pipe. Now I'm going to use a line dimension, and I'm going to measure from below the beam down to the FFL, which gives me 3350. So for example, we could start drawing our domestic pipe at elevation 3200 or any other elevation that would go below the beam. Now let's go over here, get the pipe command again, this time with shortcut PI. And like we said, we want the middle elevation to be 3200 from FFL level 1. And since the pipe wouldn't be needing any slope, we're going to hit slope off. Now we've done the pipe steps. First was the fitting type, the other system type, third is diameter, fourth is the middle elevation, and fifth, the slope. Now that we've checked all these 5 steps, we're allowed to start drawing the pipe.